It was at this very time, 20 years ago today, that Hurricane Katrina made landfall in New Orleans.
More than 1,300 people died in the Category 5 storm, a majority of them in poor, underserved communities. Residents were trapped in rising floodwaters when the levees broke and flooded the Ninth Ward, leaving a humanitarian crisis in its wake.
While the city has recovered, the people of the Ninth Ward continue to piece their lives back together. This week's edition of the New York Amsterdam News takes a closer look at how far New Orleans has come and how far it still needs to go to fully recover from Hurricane Katrina. Pix 11 has partnered with the publication for a monthly series. Amsterdam News' executive editor Madison Gray is here this morning live with more insight into their special coverage of Hurricane Katrina, 20 years in the rearview mirror. Madison, thank you for being here this morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
You know, Hurricane Katrina exposed a series of failures not only in New Orleans, but also across the state and the country, too. Writer Jimmy Briggs had a firsthand view of that destruction and neglect that followed the storm. Tell us more about that.
Well, Jimmy took a trip across a 5-state region down there in the Gulf Coast region. And he went from everywhere from Tremé in New Orleans all the way to Bay St. Louis and areas outside of Mobile, Alabama, taking a look at the devastation and the impact to the area, to the people. There were a lot of vulnerabilities that were already set in historically that had not been addressed. He also, because he has roots down in that area, he also, sort of harkened back to his father's childhood and his trips down there visiting him. He was very nostalgic. Then the storm kind of brought him back to reality, and it showed exactly what was exposed when the storm hit. Maybe people were naive about it, about what could happen. They were warned, for example, in New Orleans about how weak the levees were for years, and then when it happened, everybody was shocked and dismayed. But there is resilience down there, and there is a lot of comeback spirit that they've been building over the course of the years. And Jimmy talked about all of this, but he also talked about the cracks in the foundations that America saw with this.
I mean, the images are hard to forget. We will never forget. You saw historic neighborhoods completely wiped out, and then you saw these like refugee camps pop up. What do you feel that this really said about those marginalized communities?
Well, really talks about what it is to be poor in America, a person of color in America, living in a marginalized community in America. And there's so much that said about that. I read a report from the EPA recently that said African Americans alone are the most exposed to disasters like this still. So it says a lot about the communities where we live. We're not strangers to this in New York either. Superstorm Sandy did a lot of damage in this area to the Rockaways, to parts of Queens. Hurricane Irene did lots of damages to parts of Jersey. Even now, we're seeing subway flooding just this year. So we have a lot going on that we have to address still with infrastructure when it comes to how our communities are exposed, especially communities of color.
And so what have residents done to try and bring New Orleans back from all this?
Well, again, there's a lot of resilience. That was the focus of Trymaine Lee's documentary that we talked about, Hope in High Water, which is streaming on Peacock right now. He talked about how people sort of dug in, didn't leave. There were people who decided to stay and bring and still emphasize the culture down there, and still emphasize the welcomeness down there. They invited people back over the years, and as time went on, you saw cultural festivals come back, conventions come back. So they never really gave up. They still had a spirit of we're in New Orleans, we're still going to do this, and we're going to come back, and we're going to show America that we are who we are.
But are the people who left the area, are they coming back? Like residents?
My understanding is that about 1.5 million people left. 61% did come back. But that's not everybody, and there's still people who are still displaced. A lot of people went as far as Houston and stayed, other parts of the country and stayed. So there's still a lot to discuss with whether or not people can come back. The population, my understanding, is down about 100,000 to 364,000. So that means a lot of people did not find ways to come back. And there are people, however, who decided New Orleans is my home, and I'm going to make this work.
And still facing challenges like population, but that's not all, right?
Yeah. When we look at what happened over the course of a generation, you're going to find a lot of challenges that are still there today. Economic challenges, cultural challenges. We have cuts to FEMA, for example, that are taking place. Is that going to affect them the next time around if there's another storm like this? So, there's a lot to think about when it comes to this, and not only in areas like the Gulf Coast, but all over the country where people are exposed to these types of things.
So many lessons learned from that horrible tragedy. Thank you so much, though, for coming in, Madison. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And you can check out the latest edition of the New York Amsterdam News. It's available right now.